Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. Today, I want to talk about public holidays. Now, the first thing to tell you is that here in the UK, public holidays are referred to as bank holidays. Bank holidays. And the second thing to tell you is that usually they are on Mondays. And the reason for that is so that we can have a nice long weekend. One of the questions that I'm usually asked in English lessons is, what do you call the situation when you take an extra day on top of a weekend? For example, in some countries, if you have a bank holiday on a Thursday, and you take the Friday off work, and then you have 2 days, for example, Saturday and Sunday, which is the weekend, to create some kind of bridge so that you end up with 4 days off. People always ask me, but what do you call that in English? Another example, you have Friday and Saturday as your weekends, so you take Thursday and Monday, or Thursday and Sunday, I should say, to make a nice, long, fat holiday. Well, there isn't any word for that in English. There's no easy way to explain it because all of our public holidays are on Mondays anyway. So if you take Thursday and Friday off, it's simply called a long weekend. It's difficult to explain. I know that in German, I think it's called a bridge. I think in Spanish, it might be referred to a bridge or a sandwich, something like this. I don't remember. But anyway, there isn't any easy way to explain that in English. Bank holidays. So how many are there? Well, that depends on where you are in the UK. There are many. I think an estimate, probably a good estimate, would be around 12 a year. However, in different parts of the UK, there's always local holidays also. Now, I have to point out here that the UK, of course, is not a religious country, so we do not have saints' days or local festivities for saints. There are still traces of that in some local places around the UK. You can still find holidays on specific dates which have their origins in Christianity, but we don't have actual Christian holidays. Even Christmas and Easter are no longer called Christian because we don't want to offend anybody. And it looks like in the coming days or years, probably Eid in Islam is going to be declared some kind of public holiday also. So public holidays are for everyone to enjoy, not only religious people, and they are designated by the government. But companies are not required to give them to employees. I mean, usually everyone has their public holiday, but if you want to work and the company agrees, then you're free to work. And most people like me work at home anyway, so we can choose to ignore the days we don't like. For example, Easter and Christmas, I'm not a big fan of either of those, so I don't work during them, but probably I would have less holidays than other people. So unless you are very religious, you might just go and visit family on those days and things, but they pass quite quickly anyway. We also have holidays in May. There's a holiday at the beginning of May, which is the Workers' Day around the world, I think. And I think that probably has its roots somewhere in religion. I don't know. And then there's also one at the end of May, which is called Whitsun, which is an older holiday. I think that's quite common in Northern European countries. And we have one tomorrow, which is on August 29th. It's usually the last Monday in August, as I mentioned earlier. Bank holidays are usually carried forward to the Monday, with the exception of Christmas and Easter. Christmas, the holidays are not necessarily on Monday. Easter is always a Friday and a Monday, but it moves. So what do we do on bank holidays? Well, generally eat. So Christmas time and Easter time are big family times, so of course we eat on those days. On other bank holidays we go shopping. Some people choose to work because they're kind of minor. But tomorrow, the end of August, is always famous for music festivals. So I'm just going to talk about two of those that I know of. The Reading and Leeds festivals are a pair of annual music festivals that take place in Reading and Leeds, which are both places in England. They take place simultaneously on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the bank holiday. So it's referred to as the bank holiday weekend. As I mentioned earlier, we sometimes call bank holiday weekends long weekends, especially if you take other days around them. The Reading Festival is held in a place near Caversham Bridge, and the Leeds one is at Bramham Park near Wetherby, on the grounds of a historic house. The Reading Festival is older than the Leeds one. It's the world's oldest popular music festival, and it's something which we talk about in families because, our parents, some of our parents, my parents didn't, but some parents went there in the 60s when it was more kind of like hippie orientated, the 70s when it was more kind of like punk, and even before that. So everybody kind of knows about Reading Festival. If you live in Reading, it's very sad because it means that there'll be lots and lots of noise around you, and that's horrible. It's really, really loud, unbelievably loud. I'm surprised that they allow it to continue. And if you live in the Caversham area of Reading, many people just pack up and leave for the weekend because it's atrocious. And also, people wandering around looking very unclean. They sleep in fields and tents, and of course, they're not always obeying the law. So for young people these days, it's very festive, but I think it's one of these things which eventually has to end because it's not. I mean, the music's wonderful, of course. It's a great time to get together, but I don't think it serves any real purpose anymore. Just my opinion. Before you all start sending me letters or emails to say how wrong I am, but it's not the kind of thing I would attend. I've never been there. So it went on the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. In the mid-80s, there was a fight, and the government tried to stop it. But after a government change in the late 80s, it was allowed to go ahead again. You see, when things become very political, that's what happens. 1990s, Nirvana were playing at Reading. It's very nice, isn't it? And moving into the noughties. The noughties is the early 2000s because it has 2000, which is often referred to in English as naught. We call that period between 2000 and 2010 the noughties. So in the noughties, Leeds was very popular. It's mainly rock. I think Reading Festival is a mixture of rock, folk, and alternative, as far as I know. Flags are not allowed, which is a little bit strange. In both of these festivals, because I think they were being used as some kind of protest. But anyway, they were banned because of health and safety concerns. Reading Festival expanded in 2010 with, I think it was taking on more people. Yeah, so they have a main stage, a dance tent, a look-up stage, or otherwise called a pit stage. I mean, the photos on here are absolutely gruesome. I know that in the years that I've lived in Reading, looking around after that festival was horrific. It's like one big rubbish tip, and I don't know why that is allowed to continue. Yeah, so 2020 they were cancelled, but if you have a look on the Wikipedia site for Reading Festival, you'll see that there's some big names there. Throwing bottles around is another problem. Apparently John Waite played there. Oh, John Waite, remember him from the 80s? And his drummer was hit in the head by a 12-inch vinyl disc. Bonnie Tyler, she was there in 1988, but people threw bottles at her. Oh, poor Bonnie. She was the one that sang Total Eclipse of the Heart. It's a nice song, isn't it? Meatloaf as well. 20 minutes into his performance, he had a cider bottle thrown at him. But because he mentioned how they treated Bonnie Tyler, they threw more things at him, including burgers and bottles. He then came back onto the stage saying, "Look, do you really want to do rock and roll, or do you just want to throw stuff at me?" And so they threw stuff at him. That was the end of that. So, you see, it's not exactly friendly, is it? That's what happens when you get a group of people who are drinking and doing illegal things. Very sad, very sad. Anyway, Reading and Leeds Festival, that's this weekend. And for those of you who are around that area, then I feel very sorry for you. But it's a beautiful festival. Nice people can get together. But like I say, at some point in the future, they're going to have to stop that, I think. That's it. Okay, see you soon. Bye-bye.